Much like 20 years ago, blacks in today's movies and television are predominantly shown as household helpers, crime artists, athletes, entertainers, or exaggerated situation comedy figures, if they appear at all.
Come on, Jefferson! It's gonna blow! Come on!
In 1982, for instance, blacks played leading roles in only 8 major films. Jobs behind the scenes have also plummeted. Of some 1,500 Hollywood writers working for weekly salaries in 1981, 4 were blacks. The social impact of demeaning black screen images and the gradual shutout of black people from the film and television industries are serious problems. I'm Robert Hooks, presenting a look at what these issues mean to blacks in the media and to you, the viewing audience.
We all need to be concerned about the images of blacks and other minorities in the media, because the media has an impact on our belief system, on our attitudes, on our view of what the real world is supposed to be like. And therefore, we have to make those images on television and in film reflect the real world as it exists. We have to give both sides of the coin. We have to give strong positive images and some of the negative, as opposed to going on overkill with negative images. Many whites go to the television to find out what other people are like, because they don't have them in the neighborhood. They might have them in the school, but they don't take the time to interact with them to find out what they're all about, because they have the television to tell them. These people are dangerous. These people carry knives. These people steal. All of the negative images are there on television.
I'm probably at the moment the only black who is on a primetime nighttime show. I think there are 2 gentlemen at in comedy who produce. What gets on the air is as you know, has a lot to do with economics these days. Civil rights is not something, when they decide in New York what goes on the air. Social implications are not something they talk about, they decide about. So it comes down to the bottom line, oftentimes with dollars and cents. The people who decide are a few people who control each network in New York once or twice a year, looking at all the product that has been made, that they have commissioned to make, and deciding what is not only going to be good for entertainment value, but what is going to make money. What can stay on. It's very costly to do network television these days. Magnum cost upwards of $800,000 an episode, and some deficit financing. So for networks to consider putting something on that may be socially right is not a consideration that they deal with much. And it's a very small group of people. And I would say that there are probably no blacks involved in the decision-making at that level.
The reason there are not more black feature film directors is the stakes in terms of money are so high in the making of a feature film, and the fear level is higher than the stakes in terms of the people who give the yeses at the studios. They are trying to protect their yes vote on a project by every possible means, getting the most bankable star, getting the most bankable cinematographer, getting the most bankable director, and bankable means in terms of experience.
I'm not on a show that is a black show, and I'm not hired to be a black producer to worry about black problems. If I were constantly saying everybody on the crew has to be black and every actor who comes in has to be black, I wouldn't be there. It's a simple matter. I've been hired simply to produce a show and to produce it as well. So the advantages in terms of working is that I'm there, and I'm often able to say, if there are not enough black roles coming up, I'm often able to say, well, why can't this be played by a black? I'm often able to look at scripts in advance, and if I think that there are stereotypical things in scripts or negative images in scripts, I see them before they get made.
Let's take Car Wash, for example. It had a lot of characters in it that could have been stereotypes, both black and white. Some people thought they were stereotypes. And what I fought for as a director was that these people had to be real and believable, so that everybody from the street level to, you know, the Mercedes Benz Beverly Hills level could relate to the believability of those characters. And it was a constant fight between the creative person, myself, and some of the business people as to what should prevail. Their attitude about what's real, or my attitude about what's real. I happen to maybe win 80% of those fights. Sometimes it doesn't work that way. Sometimes you win 20%.
In the late 60s, Hollywood discovered black audiences, and the so-called blaxploitation films emerged. By 1972, 39 films featured black actors in starring roles. Jobs for black actors peaked.
I am neither proud nor ashamed of having been part of that movement. It simply struck me that there was time to amuse people in the theaters, and that what the black people needed, and maybe the whites needed to see, was some black heroes. It was all part of the Black is Beautiful movement of, when was that? The 60s, whenever it started. If black is beautiful, therefore black should be heroic. And we all know about the beautiful muscular structure of young black men, so why not show a guy who's that way, who's good with the ladies, who's good with a gun. Struck me that it was a very simple thing to have an important black hero. Ernest Heidemann wrote a book called Shaft. The manuscript was sent to me. I took it to MGM. MGM said, let's go. It was that difficult. Now, that prompted us then to do 2 more, and we kept getting glossier and slicker and whiter with each successive film, and each successive film grossed less money. It was a period of about 2 or 3 years where there must have been 10 or 15 such films. Who benefited from the so-called exploitation films of that period? Well, obviously, the financial backers, the studio. I have to remind you that that's why films are made. We are not in an art industry, we are in a business. MGM did very well with Shaft. What it did for us was it let us employ a number of black actors, a number of black crew people, and I think in that sense it was very constructive.
When the exploitation era came into being, I was in New York directing theater, and I had very mixed feelings about it. I loved the fact that a lot of black actors were getting work, and that there were images out there, and there was a lot of excitement. And then I began to deplore the concentration on negative images. And they called it blaxploitation films, and the only thing black about it were the people in the foreground, because the people who were turning it out, cranking it out, the producers, the writers, the studios were all white. What happened 5 years ago, roughly, is that Hollywood discovered there was a lot of money to be made by targeting certain products to the black audience that existed, to the Hispanic audience that existed. And what they ran into was major racist resistance in the exhibitors' end of it, the guys who own the theaters. So they started moving the theaters out of the central cities into the suburbs, into the shopping centers, so that white people would not have to come into direct contact with blacks or Hispanics. And the exhibitors are basically, pardon me, exhibitors, Southern crackers, who still carry the burden of their own racist mentality, and they break into cold sweat when they see black people coming into their suburban theaters because they feel it's going to drive the white audience out. This was evidenced in when I did a picture with Richard Pryor called Which Way Is Up, and we took it to St. Louis, to a suburban theater where not only white people came, but all the blacks came out of St. Louis central area because it was a Richard Pryor picture. And the theater owner was almost a basket case.
In order for a writer, a black writer in this country, to earn his living as a writer, the odds are greater that he'll be struck by lightning in his lifetime. That's a fact. So it's against those appalling odds that you set out. Most black writers find other work. You have to understand that we talked about 100 who made it into the guild. The toll along the way is tremendous. The amount of talent that's discouraged, that's frustrated, that turns to question their own abilities even, is tremendous. That's less than 1/100th of all of the writers that are writing, you know, trying to represent 30 million people, in excess of 30 million people. When you get your one shot to write, then, you know, you don't know whether to try to put all of the history and all of the culture into this one shot. I mean, you know, you're at a tremendous disadvantage because you think that you're only going to get one shot. You know, it also, black writers are encouraged, just a quick aside, they're also encouraged to compromise because the next time it's going to be better. Well, write one more coon show, and the next time we'll let you write one that's not so clownish. It never happens that way. You write one coon show and they come to you, and the next time you're asked to write another. Your power and prestige doesn't increase. Your clout in this town doesn't increase with credits. So it's a big merry-go-round, and if you opt out for personal gain or interest, then you end up making a lot of compromises for a lot of shows that you aren't necessarily proud of.
I would like to say that I don't want to appear to be a white apologist for making films relating to minority people. I think many, many writers in the community feel very, very strongly about it, as I do. But for some reason or other, I have seemed to have worked on a lot of films dealing with black Americans, starting many years ago with a film called The Joe Louis Story. I thought the whole world would be waiting to see the film. On the contrary, we had terrible problems booking it into white theaters. I had calls from people in the South who own theaters saying, of all people, you should know better. There was a scene in which Manny Lewis, the white trainer in the film, held Joe Louis's child with Marla on his lap. And apparently no white man had ever held a black child on his lap in motion pictures up until 1950-something. They said, that is an appalling thing to do. You must cut that out. If you take that out, there's a possibility we may play it in some of our black theaters.
We don't want to take any more of your time, Mr. Endicott.
The best experience I believe I've had in films in connection with the subject is In the Heat of the Night. It was a book that Sidney Poitier had found. Had a wonderful part for a detective from Philadelphia who's trapped in the South. Imagine for me to go from being told I can't put Joe Louis's child on the lap of his white trainer to a scene in which Sidney Poitier slaps as hard as he can a rich white landowner in the Deep South. That is progress.
Was Mr. Colbert ever in this greenhouse, say last night about midnight?
wonder of wonders, a white man actually slapped, which must have blown minds all over the United States and Europe.
You and your whole lousy generation believes the way it was for you is the way it's got to be. And not until your whole generation has lain down and died will the dead weight of you be off our backs. You understand? You've got to get off my back.
Sidney Poitier was I think, the single positive image in movies there for a long, long while. I had the singular opportunity of playing the role of his mother, Mary Prentice, in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner. And I also worked with him in the Heat of the Night.
I've only known about this situation for 1 hour.
I've been everybody's mother, from Sidney to, I think the last person was James Earl Jones and The Great White Hope. So I've been everybody's mother from the very beginning. Well, you have to consider that the industry really is large, and there's something that is called a player's guide, and they have pictures of people in there. And when they are looking for our character actors or such, they just simply thumb through the pages and this one. That's how it's selected. So if you're in there as a character actress, and the image is a mother image, you see, then they're going to look at you and say, yes, I want the mother image, but that's the color, that's black enough, but not fat enough, because mother is also fat, ample, you know. And everybody knows that has very little to do with anything. Now, I am not suggesting that everybody should immediately get anorexia, or whatever that is. I'm not suggesting that that's the ideal form, but I'm saying that everybody is not overweight in the black community. And we should certainly look at people in their wholeness of being.
Okay, let's talk about black images as far as they relate to women. They're either fat, mothers, the big mama, you know, who's going to take care of everybody, exotic, and exotic in the sense of either native or prostitutes, because prostitute is exotic to a certain mentality, or subservient, servile, as in slave.
When you think of black women, you think of Big Mama. Even if your mother happened to be a size 8. Mama must be big. Everything is centered around food. If you'll recall, they're sitting at the table. They just finished a meal. And that's what black mothers are all about, being overweight and wanting to feed everyone.
Well, we're moving on up to the side.
Florence is my aunt, my grandmother, many people in the black community in Chicago, and many people in LA, and in every black community. There are Florences all over the world, and everybody knows of Florence. The people who were on the TV shows before the Jeffersons are not working. You do not see Janae Dubois. You do not see Esther Rowe, despite the fact that they were on the air for quite a while. You do not see any of those people who were performing on those shows because there is no market for them. People always say, oh, you don't have to worry about it. Well, yes, you do. You do have to worry about it, because where are you going? You see, Larry Hagman can leave CBS and go anywhere else and be in any production about anything. You can't go unless, first of all, it says black in your age range, and 9 times out of 10, they'll want you to be a maid.
You don't see all this.
I like that. When the Jeffersons is canceled, I feel that I've made a place for myself, because we have a theater where I can come and perform and work on my craft. I was going to say, as I've said about a lot of things, that even though this is a very trying period in the industry, I think it's a very necessary period, and I think, by and large, we're going to be grateful for it. I think without this period where we're not being seen and where it's being shown to us that we're not necessary as far as making money in the industry, we're going to have to look to ourselves and look to our own ingenuity and our own initiative, and that we're going to find we're quite a bit more talented and capable than we think we are.
What's the state of the art? Are there blacks on the board of directors? Do we have any?
Through organized community action like the NAACP's Fair Share program, blacks are investigating industry practices.
Lord, what about contracts for goods and services? What about their levels of contribution? And what kind of portfolio do they have? Do they buy insurance from black brokers and this type of thing? And by the way, this was one of the things that we also looked at in the movie studios, because they have occasion to spend so much money for so many different things. So that's the research component. And then we go to the negotiating component. We say, here are our findings. What do you have to say about this? And what do you think you will be able to do? And then the third phase, if we are unable to get satisfactory results, or if we are unable to see that they are making an effort to improve, then we have two remedies. Where the facts present themselves sufficiently, legal action, or direct action through boycotts, so that we don't like to begin and jump to the third phase of the operation. But it would be a mistake to say that boycott is discarded as one of the remedies.
About images.
New activist groups led by blacks in the media are also challenging the image makers.
I think it's important to let the community at large know that the images that they see portrayed on television and films is just as important as jobs, housing, education. Because every image of them that they see affects every one of those areas that I just mentioned when they go out into the real world to get a job, to find housing, and to be educated. It's what people see on that screen that touches all of us.
Basically, our philosophy is that people have to be re-educated before any positive action can take place. And what we're trying to do is put information out there so that, because the people in the industry, they really think that images like Mr. T and the images that are out there now, the Jeffersons, that kind of thing, they think that those are positive images. And what they need to do, they need to be re-educated so that they can realize that there are other images out there that we represent, that, you know, the loudmouth, bad acting person is not all that we are. You know, that there are other facets of us that we want to see on the air, and that the Jeffersons and Mr. T would be fine if there was a balance.
I'd love to see more blacks, more minorities, period. You know, women, Hispanics, Asians behind the cameras, in front of the cameras. It doesn't make sense to me to see something that doesn't represent the world the way it is.
Some producers contend that mass audiences don't want to see black people, that realistic, positive portrayals just won't sell.
I think, on the contrary, white audiences, despite what may be or may not be a personal attitude about their black brothers, want honesty in films. I wouldn't be in this business if I didn't feel that the overwhelming majority of the theater audience, particularly the young audience, wants to see things the way they are and people the way they really exist.
I did a small film 9 or 10 years ago called Cooley High.
You guys think it's so funny because I want to be something besides a factory worker or a football player. Well, that's because you're a bunch of stupid niggas that don't know shit.
The white audiences loved the picture because it was about real people with real concerns that they instantly got into on a human level. And after 5 minutes, the audience forgot that those kids were black because they were relating totally into the story. And I think ultimately that is the only thing that an audience really cares about is, are they entertained, are they gripped, are they transformed in some way by the content of the story? And the skin color is a figment of the distribution mentality and some of the production mentality.
I think it's getting better. I just think it's a snail's pace. And the problem with us is that we The public at large now is aware of the need for good images. We're aware, and the talent is there, and the talent is getting not only ready, but more than ready.
Nothing represents us as a people. We're complex personalities. We are many things. We need a balance. We need Amos and Andy. We need the Jeffersons so that we can laugh at ourselves. We need to be able to turn and see ourselves as doctors and attorneys and nuclear physicists and all the other things that we're involved in that people don't happen to know that we're involved in as people.
All that we have is our experience. So that the only way you can see me is through my experience, my being it, my expressing it. And if that isn't allowed, I am rendered invisible.
The gradual erosion of gains blacks made toward more honest and diverse screen images is a reality, as is the job crisis among black media professionals. Industry leaders must continue to search for program formulas that attract mass audiences without resorting to negative stereotypes. Viewers and public groups must insist on their right to balanced representation. The outcome of this struggle will be a dramatic test of the national conscience.